Have you ever been standing in line for a coffee on a workday and thought, hey, can I claim this? Trust me, you are not alone. Navigating meal expenses in New Zealand can feel, well, a little complicated. So in this explainer, we're going to cut through all that confusion. We'll make it super simple so you know exactly what's on the table and what's not. Let's dive in. So picture this. You're in the middle of a busy workday. You grab a quick lunch. Seems like a no-brainer for a business expense, right? Well, maybe, but maybe not. The real answer actually hangs on one single, crucial detail that changes absolutely everything from a tax point of view.
And here it is, the key to the whole puzzle. Are you buying that meal as a self-employed person or as an employee of a company? You see, even if you own the company, the IRD, that's New Zealand's tax department, sees those two roles as completely separate worlds. Getting your head around this one difference is the secret to understanding all the rules that follow.
All right, let's start with the easy stuff, the green lights. These are the situations where you can go ahead and claim the full cost of a meal as a business expense, no questions asked.
That's right, a full 100% deduction. And the logic behind it is pretty simple, really. In these specific cases, the IRD agrees that the expense is purely for business. There's no private benefit, no element of personal enjoyment mixed in. It's just a clean, straightforward business cost.
The classic example here is employee travel. So if you've got an employee who's away from home overnight for a work trip, the cost of their meals is totally deductible. The key distinction is that the meal is for sustenance. It's just keeping them fed so they can do their job. It's not about entertainment, which, as we'll see, is a whole different ballgame. But there's always a but, isn't there? This tax-free ride only lasts for 3 months. If that employee is posted in the same location for any longer, those meal payments suddenly become taxable income for them. Now, the company can still claim the deduction, but it has to be run through payee. That's the pay-as-you-earn tax system. So it's something to keep an eye on for longer trips. Another solid green light? The good old overtime meal. If an employee, and yep, this includes you if you're a shareholder employee, has to burn the midnight oil, the cost of their dinner is 100% deductible for the business and usually tax-free for them. The key word there is genuine extra work, though, not just finishing up a bit late. And there are a few other clear wins here. Things like the office coffee, tea, and biscuits, they're all good. Meals you have at a conference or training course that goes for more than 4 hours, also 100% deductible. And here's a great one. Meals you have while you're traveling for business overseas. That 50% entertainment rule we're about to talk about? Yeah, it doesn't apply once you're out of New Zealand.
Okay, now let's move into the yellow light zone. This is where things get a little bit murky. It's the gray area where the IRD says, we see some business here, but we also see some personal benefit.
So, how does the IRD solve this little dilemma? Well, they split it right down the middle. 50%. The idea is that while you might be talking shop, you're also enjoying a nice meal or a drink, which is a personal benefit. This 50% rule applies to pretty much anything that gets classified as entertainment.
So what does the IRD actually mean by an entertainment expense? Well, think of it this way. It's any time you're providing food, drink, or recreation to give people a bit of enjoyment or hospitality. It's all about the social context, whether it's with clients, suppliers, or your own team.
So we're talking about that classic client lunch to seal a deal, the annual staff Christmas party, or taking the team out for dinner to boost morale. Even if you spend the whole time talking about quarterly reports, because it's happening in a social hospitality setting, the IRD says only half of that cost is a business expense.
Now check this out, because this is a fantastic example of just how specific these rules can get. Let's say you want to give a staff gift. If you give them a food hamper, that's considered entertainment, so it's only 50% deductible. But if you give them a restaurant voucher instead, the IRD sees that as being basically the same as cash, so the company can claim 100% of the cost, but then it becomes subject to fringe benefit tax, or FBT. The exact form of the gift totally changes the tax treatment. Wild, right?
And finally, we've arrived at the red light. These are the hard stops, the dead ends, the meal expenses that you absolutely positively cannot claim.
Yep, 0%, a big fat nothing. Trying to claim these isn't just a mistake, it's going against a very clear rule. The IRD is firm on this. Expenses that are considered private living costs are never, ever deductible, and these meals fall right into that bucket. This is probably the biggest point of confusion for so many people. If you are self-employed, your daily coffee, your lunch you grab between jobs, the sandwich you eat at your desk, none of it is deductible.
The IRD just sees that as the cost of keeping yourself alive, which is a private expense. Same goes for taking your friends or family out for a meal, even if you happen to mention work for 5 minutes.
Now, a lot of people think they've found a clever workaround by setting up a look-through company, or an LTC. But nope, that doesn't work. The IRD simply looks through the company structure as if it has X-ray vision and sees you, the owner, standing right behind it. So the expense is still treated as your personal cost, and the zero deduction rule still applies.
Okay, I know. That was a whole lot of information. Green lights, yellow lights, red lights. So how in the world do you remember all this when you're about to tap your card? Well, let's boil it all down into a super simple, practical test you can use every single time.
It all comes down to asking yourself 3 quick questions. First, who's paying? Am I acting as an employee of my company right now or as a self-employed person? Then, next question, what's the purpose? Is this just for basic fuel, sustenance, or is it social, entertainment? And finally, the third question, what's the context? Is this happening because of work travel, overtime, or is it a social event? Your answers will guide you right to the correct tax treatment, 100%, 50%, or 0. Simple as that.
And that really brings us to a bigger final thought. We've seen how that one little distinction, employee versus self-employed, can have a huge impact on something as small as buying lunch. It kind of makes you stop and think, doesn't it? Beyond just meals, is your business as a whole structured in the smartest way possible for the best tax outcome? Now that's some food for thought.